Today's episode of Formidable Opponents is brought to you by HelloFresh. Do you feel like you are stuck in a dinner rut? With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients with mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip all those trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. You can now enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less. With over 25 recipes to choose from each week, there is something for everyone to enjoy. All recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. Our show is about arguing the best, and I'm having a difficult time narrowing down what is my favorite HelloFresh meal. I love so many of them, but I have to say the Gouda Vibes burger with the tomato jam and the potato wedges is amazing. Couple that with your favorite beer. Put on your favorite game or movie. You're in for a fun night, topped off by an easy and delicious dinner. Go to the link in our show notes to get $80 off, including free shipping on HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit. And now on to our show. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 25 of Formidable Opponents, a show that pits three people who have known each other virtually their entire lives in a series of conversations as we argue what is best in a variety of fun, engaging, and critical pop culture topics we all debate about. I'm Randall, and with me as always, Bob and Joseph, and today's topic is One-Hit Wonders Revisited, the 90s edition. Before we start off, we want to give a huge shout out to Dina at Creative Little Pill. You can follow her on Instagram. She does all of our cover work. She does great cover work. 90s one-hit wonders. So we're doing this as a sequel to our first episode. This is our 25th episode. We really didn't know what the hell we were doing on that first episode. The opening, the pacing, the timing, the sound, the editing. We went with a big fun topic because we thought we'd all get bored or really suck and decided to swing for the fences and cover these vast subject matters. And quite frankly, didn't realize we'd get more mileage if we broke things down. This week, we wanted to revisit our first topic, but break it down to a much more palpable morsel, a focused time period whose influence remains cogent. And although the 90s may seem like they were yesterday, we are all an Axl Rose image search away from screaming, "Holy shit, how long ago was this?" Although every era changes our perspective and understanding of the world and art around us, the 90s have the distinction of being the last bastion of monoculture. Cable TV, MTV, VHS rentals, radio, the bridging vessel that tethered those joys of yore to the information superhighway, which had us discovering new artists, new trends. And although the internet connected all of us, ASL in the chat rooms, Joseph, you know what I'm talking about? It isolated our collective perspective and nuanced how we absorbed and digested pop culture. The 90s are special because we examined collectively. We felt collectively, and we were in awe collectively. And at times, we even winced collectively. So Bob and Joseph, let's talk 90s one-hit wonders. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. You forgot Collective Soul.
Collective Soul, of course. So guys, before we start off, we wanted to talk a little bit about why we were doing this. Our first episode was One-Hit Wonders. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I thought we would get maybe 6 or 7 episodes and you guys would say, you know what, I don't want to do this shit anymore. But then you brought your own microphones. You brought your own mic covers. Like, okay, they're putting money into it. I think we're going to stick around for a while. But
I was actually funny. I went for a little run today and I listened to our very first episode, the One Hit Wonders episode. Wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Our sound was shit. And we kind of, it kind of got off to a rough start, but I think by the end we were kind of flowing. I definitely love the fact that we're going to revisit this because I think One Hit Wonders is such a great topic. I think it'd be a little fun. I want to see what y'all came up with.
I agree because like Bob, I've listened to it before and I agree too. I was like, for us not knowing exactly what the fuck we were doing or any kind of, not that we know what the fuck we're doing right now. We've seemed to have gotten better and we hear, positive feedback from fans and listeners. And that's always real cool. Clearly we like Randy said, man, we were swinging for the fences with that first show and it was a great topic. And it's always an awesome topic to discuss anywhere. And it's something that we're really happy to bring back and do it right and do it maybe some more justice and specifically on an era that speaks to us very much so
just to specify this, we're not arguing best one hit wonders because we've done that already. Now the interesting fact from that first episode, Bob, you picked a one-hit wonder from the 80s. Joseph, you picked a song from the 2000s. I was the only one that picked the 90s one-hit wonder. So I am not going to go with mine. Of course, I will not talk about Return to the Mac, which I still think is the best one-hit wonder.
Because
you lied. We tore your pick to pieces, to
shreds, bro.
You lied. He wasn't a Mac. He wasn't a daddy Mac.
Go back and listen to that. You lied to me.
But what we're going to try to accomplish is to see which one of us can pick the most memorable, most impactful 90s one-hit wonder. So let me start off by asking you guys this. We covered what defines a one-hit wonder on the previous episode, so I won't go into that. But let's focus on the resilience of era-specific 90s one-hit wonders. Why is this era of music so important to us? And more so, why is it an important era for one-hit wonders in general? The 90s specifically.
I mean, I know why it's important to us, because this is the 90s was the decade of us growing and growing up and being in junior high and high school and breakups and heartache and really getting into music, getting into the grunge, getting into the alternative, the pop rock, and all the different kinds of genres that there were in the 90s. I think that it speaks to us really well, because there was a lot of one-hit wonders that came from the 90s, going back in, and I was going through and sifting through them all week, and there was a shitload of one-hit wonders of the 90s. A lot of songs that I still remember word for word, which is pretty crazy to think that those guys or those bands didn't have another hit. It's kind of crazy to me.
The 90s were a time that, for us, for Bob and I, Randy too, at the same time, yes, regardless of the slight age gap, we were all kind of just finding out who we were going to be. Me and Bob were, I think, in junior high, getting ready to go into high school. Randy, you were leaving, starting college, right? Or something like that. Roughly around, and the 90s itself, we were that generation just before the Y2K thing, and all this uncertainty that was coming with the new millennium, and a lot of the music was about that. And I think that there was both, if you look at everything that came out as far as music in the 90s, a lot of the messages were positive. There was a lot of hope. We were like, on what's going to happen, what's going to be in the future, who are we going to be, so I think for us specifically, it is like we mentioned, it was when we were growing up. Yeah. That was during the time that we were deciding, who we were going to be.
I disagree. There wasn't a lot of hope. There was a shitload of heartbreak and breakup songs, man. I was going to. There's Torn. You want to know?
Fear
Don't
too,
speak,
man. There's a lot of
nothing
fear,
compares.
Right?
Foolish Games, Criminal. There's a lot of fucking breakup songs.
A lot of the
heartbreak songs in the 90s.
I think it's almost parsed out. Like the early 90s, we had a sort of mix of upbeat, and when we got to like the mid 90s on, we got more of that heartbreak, more of the uncertainty, more of the
the grunge alternative, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I know grunge came out early in the 90s, but not a lot of those bands were one-hit wonders. I think everybody that was throwing their name in the hat, they were trying to make this grandiose song. They went full tilt. I think a lot of one-hit wonders, the reason they're so good is because that first effort was amazing, and we never heard from them again. We'll talk about that later on in the episode, but 90s music is known for being all over the place. It was a free-for-all, and since it was pretty much open to every genre, like we talked about right now, that decade produced the most hit wonders per capita. Can we say that it can be labeled as both the best and worst era for music? Because there's a lot in there, a lot of good and bad.
I don't know if you could say it was the worst era for music. I could say it's the best. I mean, just because bands weren't as successful, like I said, there's a lot of one-hit wonders, and they couldn't come up with that second album or that second big hit. It doesn't mean that their music or that one single wasn't great. There was a lot of great music, minus the Magarenas and Mambo number 5s. You had a lot of big hits, Space Hog, Toady, shit like that. There's a lot of great hits, man.
I think it's a little bit of both, because it shows that there was a lot of creativity going on in the 90s, and that's real cool. I think, if you, like you mentioned, there's a lot of, it was over many different genres, and we had a little bit of we saw bands that brought back some influence from like that hippies vibe, but in the 90s. But I think maybe at the same time it could be, if you want to call it the worst. I mean, I guess maybe it just shows that where we were headed, because if you look at where we're at now and the attention spans that kids today have, maybe that's kind of the beginning of it. The late 90s, we were you know, if one song came, it was good, and then something else came out, and then you were gone. And so maybe that's just kind of shows that where we were headed at the time, and how, you know, our attention spans were evolving back then. I mean, for some people, but because I personally, I love music, and I'll always love music, and music is everything. But so I don't just move on from you know, one artist or song just like that. But I think, like I said, most of the populace would, maybe that's where it was, you know.
Have you guys had the experience where you're listening to the radio, maybe Sirius XM, and maybe you're listening to the 90s on 9 or some sort of pop channel, and then a song comes on that was a one-hit wonder from the 90s, and you had totally forgot about this band? For me, I'll share mine really quick. I was driving to work, and Into Your Arms by the Lemonheads. I mean, I know they did a cover of Mrs. Robinson. I don't know how big of a hit that was, but the Into Your Arms song, I remember it being big, and I remember listening to it and thinking, wow, this was a really good song. And they kind of like just went, I mean, they didn't do much of anything after the cover.
It's funny that you should mention that. I just heard the Primitive Radio Gods.
Oh yeah,
standing outside a broken phone booth with money in your hand, or money in my hand. That longest title in a 90s music song. That song was pretty cool, man. I heard that and I was like, oh, I completely forgot about the song. Totally 90s. Totally 90s one-hit wonder.
Good
for
sample.
Me, no, I like, because I said, I mean, I've listened to a lot of music, so it doesn't really happen to you, but I do love that it reminds me of something that I did like, and I'd say, like, maybe I hadn't heard or remembered it in a while, but like, you know, when Barely Breathing came on, I was like, that was such a good song. So the same
Duncan Sheik.
So like, dude, that was, it just reminded me, I always knew it was a good song. I liked it. So, I think for me, it's just more that reminding me of a good song that I forgot about that song. It's such a great song. Let me add it to the playlist.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Summer Girls by LFO.
It didn't come out in the 90s.
Yes, sir. 1999.
Yeah. But I love that Duncan Sheik song. He's my favorite Sheik behind the Iron Sheik.
I didn't listen to that song either, so.
Was that the Condoms?
There was another one. There was another one I like to listen to. My kids love listening to it. EMF, Unbelievable. That song never really went away. It just kind of persists. Oh. Yeah, but I mean, great song. The Andrew Dice Clay sample. Yeah, great song. But I guess we're kind of heading into our honorable mentions. So let's go ahead and head into our honorable mentions. Bob or Joseph, who do you got for some of your honorable mentions?
I looked at the list and we were writing shit down. We were listening to music. So I'm just going to just real quick ones. These are not to say for it's, you know, that I'll just say it. Look,
anyway, we could talk about
we could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
But so Epic, Faith No More by Epic. You know what? I'm not going to lie.
What is it?
You know, I got to admit, I mean, it was a catchy fucking song. I'm Too Sexy, right? No, I'm talking about I'm Too Sexy, right? Said Fred.
You are.
I mean, I'm Gonna Be by the Proclaimers. Return of the Mac. I'll say your pick from the previous one. Return of the Mac is a great song.
You lied to me.
Like we mentioned, Barely Breathing by Duncan Sheik. In the Meantime by Space Hog, like it was mentioned.
What happened to those guys, man?
I know, man. That
so
song
much potential.
Was fucking awesome.
And then, of course, I also wrote down it's a great fucking song that Bob mentioned, Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in My Hand. Such an awesome fucking song. Just wrote down those. There's so many more, but the list would be way too long.
You know, going to a few of them, Joseph, Space Hog. I don't know if you guys remember the video at the end. I think the guy's like he's running at the end. I think he runs out of the building. And after he runs out of the building, we don't fucking see him anymore. It's like it's symbolic. Like, I'm just here for this fucking song. It was the band name was horrible, but the song was really good. I think he dated Liv Tyler for a few months in the 90s, but the guy just
I think the singer, I think it was another, I never remember hearing about this, but I think it was somebody else. It might have been like Melissa Milano or something.
Okay.
Also, I'm sorry, I wrote Feeder. I'm pretty sure this one came out in the 90s. I'm Going Out for a While to Get High with My Friends by Feeder.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a good one too.
Great fucking song
too. Didn't it come out on like one of the American Pies?
Can't Hardly Wait.
Can't Hardly Wait. Yes. Nice. I had a lot of the honorable mentions. You didn't mention Flagpole Sitta, Harvey Danger.
Oh, that's a good one.
Love that one.
See, it's too hard, man. There's a bunch of them.
She said, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back. Obviously, Fastball, The Way. That's probably one of the most underrated songs. Those guys had that big hit and they fucking disappeared too. Natalie Imbruglia, Torn. I think she became an actress or something afterwards, so she gets kind of a pass. And then Randy's favorite, Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
Oh, I got that one. Yeah, if it was up to me, that would be our intro song right there.
Tub Thumping. Do you know what are the four drinks? Randy? What are the four drinks?
What are the four drinks?
What are the four drinks?
Whiskey. He drinks cider, lager. He drinks whiskey.
One more.
Come on, Rand. Here you go.
What's the fourth one? I don't remember.
It's a vodka drink.
Vodka drink. All right. It was
drink a whiskey drink. Drink the vodka drink.
I had a drink. When that song came out, I was taking an economics class in college, and the professor was Turkish, but he looked exactly like the lead singer. So every time I saw him, I just like, oh, Danny boy. I mean, he looked like the lead singer of that band.
Now that you say that, I want that to be our fucking intro song. If we can if somebody can get on the line,
yes, that'd be cool.
Maybe securing those rights. That'd
be awesome. I mean, it fits in with the show.
No shit, it fits in perfectly. Oh, one last one I wanted to mention. The Verve, Bittersweet Symphony. Great song. Another group. I think they were like a group from the UK too. So I think a lot of those guys that they came down here, they released a badass single or album, and then they kind of just split and went back home. I
think the thing with them is that they were it went all the way to court or to trial. They had sampled something from the Rolling Stones. I don't think the Rolling Stones gave a damn, but you know, the record, the label wanted to. I don't think they made any money from that song, and it sucks because they didn't have any hits after that. So who knows what they're doing? But I think it's all settled now. Let's talk a little bit about before we get to mine. Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back. That is the cover.
Oh, great song, dude.
What did you guys think of that song when it came out?
I thought it was fucking awesome, man, because it's kind of like it's laughable. It's funny, but it's also sexual. It's also extremely catchy. The video was like over the top with like the butt humps in the background. The rap was awesome. You knew like a lot of the words. You could rap along with it. You could sing along with it. You know what I mean? It was funny. It made fun of it. It was an awesome song with an awesome video.
It's not the best song. I mean, I'm like it's catchy. It's comical, like you mentioned. It served its purpose as far as like, because what would you consider? Was it a hip hop song? Would you say that? I mean, I wasn't really listening to hip hop then, but I think because
but he had the Bone Thugs and Harmony album. You know,
that didn't come out.
See you at the crossroads.
But anyway, I don't know. I just it's funny and it's cool, but I mean, personally, I'm not going to listen to it.
I think I remember when that song came out, I was somewhat familiar with Sir Mix-a-Lot. I know he was a rapper out of Washington. His biggest hit prior to that was My Posse's on Broadway. Have you guys heard that song?
My Posse's on Broadway.
Yeah. It was a minor hit. And Sir Mix-a-Lot was kind of, first of all, he has a horrible rap name. It sounds like a name that like Theo Huxtable and his friend would go like imaginary concert. We're going to go see Sir Mix-a-Lot, and Theo gets in trouble and doesn't get to go to the concert. But Sir Mix-a-Lot came out. He came out with this song. I remember MTV couldn't play it until like past like 10 o'clock because everybody was complaining about the asses on screen. The DJ on his record has asses on it. It was a novelty hit. I mean, you know, he was singing about butts. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It was clever. It was funny. But I mean, that song has endured. I mean, people still know the song because it was so silly. I think what I'm trying to say is I think he got his point across with the song. And as dumb as it was, I mean, I'm pretty sure he made a pretty good living out of that one song.
No shit, right?
Some of the one-hit wonders I had Mambo No. 5. I know it's not a great song, but I think it was a big hit.
It did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll admit it. It's not, like you said, it's not the greatest song, but I think it was a hit.
The secret to this song is that he named so many women in the song. So you could imagine like drunk girls at the bar. Yeah, they said my name, you know. And, you know, it was like Jessica. Yeah, that's me. It's my wife's name, by the way. Possum Kingdom. That's a band that I thought would have a bigger career. I think one of you guys mentioned it earlier, but Possum Kingdom was a great song. Just the band just didn't endure. I did write down More Than Words, but I know that they had another hit. I think it was Hole in My Heart or something like that. So I didn't mention More Than Words, but I did want to say them.
That's a great song, but it was completely ruined because now I can't see anybody but Jack Black and Jimmy Fallon doing a remake of that.
That's a great one. Cannonball by the Breeders was
forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Such a great one of the greatest bass lines.
Yeah, dude, that's an awesome song.
And then, of course, I had Tub Thumping because I'm still trying to get the rights to that for our opening thing. But, I mean, just an eclectic. I mean, look at what we mentioned. We mentioned everything from hip hop to, I mean, we didn't even get into Skee-Lo, I wish. You know,
man, that guy was awesome. See, now wanted to mention.
See, and I didn't mention Ani Kamozi's.
Ani Kamozi, yeah.
I mean, dang. Such a great song. And I mentioned this to Bob real quickly last night. I was like, I thought it was almost my pick, but I didn't pick it. I thought it was cool. Another what was cool about it was it was such a huge song, and I mentioned him because you had like junior high kids and high school kids that were listening to that, and they'd get to that line, they would be like, nah, 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 nah. And it's like if you were doing that while your parents were listening to, they were like, hey, what the fuck? That's my song, you know. It reminded them of that. I can't remember the name of that song.
Land of a Thousand Dances.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I thought it was cool. It was a nice little one. I thought it was a good song, but it was a cool little, like, you know, it just got, I guess, parents and kids talking about, you know, that one particular line.
What about Jamiroquai? Did he have any other hits? I mean, I'm pretty sure he
Virtual Insanity.
Virtual Insanity is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that was a badass song.
I just think he wore big hats, and they were kind of like Maroon 5, but, you know, less attractive. But it's okay. So Joseph, when you named your honorable mentions, you mentioned Epic, Faith No More. I blame those guys for the Kid Rock, the Limp Bizkits, and everything that came out of the rap rock new metal. So I can't go with that song, man.
Did anybody rap in that one?
Limp Bizkit.
He did. He rapped at the beginning. You know, can you feel it? See it?
There we go. There we go. That's just a white guy getting really into it in the ring.
Do it.
It doesn't matter anyway.
The Beastie Boys were doing that.
It was like a satanic Anthony Kiedis. He was just fucking going for it, man. But let's go ahead and go to our selections. Bob, we're starting off with you. Who'd you pick?
Yeah, I have to follow that shit up. I decided, you know what, it was kind of difficult. Like I said, the 90s has a lot of one-hit wonders, probably the most of any decade. Looking at it, but I decided to go with Lisa Loeb's "Stay."
Why?
Yes, I had to. It's just that it was that perfect little folksy pop rock song that is about heartbreak that became one of the most popular songs of the 90s. It's easily one of the most recognizable one-hit wonders of the 90s as well. That's still popular to this day, thanks to Lisa Loeb looking extremely hot almost 25 years later in that Geico commercial. Y'all checked it out.
She's a vampire, man. That girl does not age. Vampire. She's a vampire.
I chose this song really not only because of its mass popularity and her fast rise to superstardom, but also because just as fast as she rose up to the top, she seemed to kind of disappear into obscurity. First off, I wouldn't call her lucky, but I kind of say the stars kind of aligned for her. Luck would have it, Ethan Hawke happened to be her next door neighbor in their apartment complex. And at the time he was shooting Reality Bites, he was acting in Reality Bites. She came up with that single. He heard it. He happened to take it to Ben Stiller, who was directing Reality Bites at the time, and he added it to the movie in the closing credits. That's like a huge break for her. The movie was obviously awesome. If you haven't seen Reality Bites, cool little movie in the 90s. The movie was great. The song kind of gained popularity, and before you knew it, on the Billboard 100, it became number one. This relatively unknown artist, Lisa Loeb, catches the break of a lifetime, man. And after it hits number one, she's just kind of like on top of the world. And it's so crazy because she does all this all while not being signed to a record label. And this is important. I think it makes her stand out a little bit because she's a virtual unknown. Her song just happens to get thrown on a movie because she happens to be neighbor with Ethan fucking Hawke. And then like her songs just shoots up to the top, which is just incredible. It's the first artist ever to reach the number one spot and not be signed to a record label. She even received a Grammy nomination for best pop performance for Stay. The sky seemed like it was a limit for her. You know, she's just that new big rising musician, which even further confused me that after all the, you know, like I said, the stars seemed to be aligned for her, and having these, you know, friends in like these cool places, helping her get on, you know, this, having her on the credits to a movie and having her single shoot up to the number one on the charts. She kind of just drops off the face of the earth the way she did, which really, I don't know, it's mind-boggling to me, man. I mean, the single got the type of notoriety recognition like Stay did. I mean, just, which is so crazy because Stay was so massive, and it was before she signed a record deal. You'd think that after she signed a record deal with this big label, having already been a star, that it would have only propelled her into this new level of superstardom. She would have worked with bigger names, better artists, maybe some collabs. She would have had a hell of a lot more singles released. Guys seemed like it was the limit for her. I just can't understand how her career didn't explode at that point in her career. At that point, after that single was just so great. So it just makes her the ultimate one hit wonder in my mind. I can't say that I can think of anybody else. And yeah, one hit wonders by definition. Oh yeah, they made a great song and then they kind of fell off and nothing else, nothing compares, right? Nothing else really got back to that level. But she was an unknown with a few lucky breaks, dude. And she hit this number one and she signs this mega deal and then nothing. It seems just really odd to me, really weird to me how nothing came after that. No singles, no hits, no anything. She was my pick. That's my argument I have for her. I don't know what you all think about her, but I really think y'all should take into consideration those factors. It just seems really weird to me that she didn't do anything after that.
But I think you've made every soccer mom's day with this selection. I think every woman between the ages of 38 and 55 has to turn down the radio and sing along to this song. It's like an issued standard requirement, right? And you're absolutely right. Impressive. First number one single from an artist without a recording contract. And we'll talk a little bit about how this song was released. Ethan Hawke at the time probably told Ben Stiller, if you don't put this fucking song in the movie, I'm walking out. He probably threatened him. He seemed like he was a little bit of hothead back then. A vulnerable lovelord ballad. I will say this, okay, and I'm going to admit this. When we do music shows, I like to listen to the songs on loop over and over because I really want to understand. I wasn't a big fan of this song. I'm still not, but I did listen to it while I was jogging the track. My son had a soccer practice, and so I was running the track, and the coach was calling me over, and he called me over right around the part where she gives that second, yeah, I missed you. And I think when I said yeah, when I responded to him, I think my voice cracked a little bit, and I think he thought I was going through some emotional shit. And,
well, it could also have been the tears in your eyes. He was like, are you listening to Lisa Loeb?
He calls me over and he's like, hey, man, you okay? I'm just a little tired. And this he's from Argentina. So, I mean, he's going through heartbreak himself because Messi just signed with Paris and left Barcelona. And he's like, now I got this guy breaking down on my field. So it was a little bit. So that part hits me a little bit. Other than that, I think it's a good song about heartbreak. And the 90s had a ton of one-hit wonder heartbreak songs. But is it better than Nothing Compares to You? Is it better than Torn? Is it better than Lullaby by Sean Mullen? Is it better than?
Why would you mention that shit?
That's a great song. It is definitely.
We have a lot to talk about, sir. Between white guys dancing, guys, Mick Jagger's a great dancer, and now Lullaby was a great song. Holy, we have a lot to discuss after this pod's over.
What about What Is Love by Hathaway? That's a great song. It's about heartbreak.
Baby, don't hurt me.
Yeah, that song. I mean, it's Craig Robinson sang it better on Hot Tub Time Machine too. By the way, maybe not better, but it was funny. This the type of song. I mean, with its emotional malaise, replaced by more of a pejorative, mad heartbreak songs later on by like Alanis Morissette. You Ought to Know, because this song You Ought to Know came out a year later, right? And it went from heartbreak, went from this, yeah, fuck this guy, and I think that's where. I'm not trying to make an assumption here, but I think that's where Lisa Loeb sort of trailed off, because she had this sweet, innocent, hey, we're breaking up. It's about euphoric recall. It's about limerence. And then a year later, you get Alanis Morissette, telling this guy who does Popeye voices, go fuck yourself, So I think that's why we lost Lisa Loeb. I think Alanis Morissette is the reason why we lost artists like Lisa Loeb, because women were like, yeah, you know what? Heartbreak song should be about scorn and empowerment and about, go fuck yourself. And that's why I think Lisa Loeb sort of trailed off.
You forgot Lullabies.
Lullabies is a great song.
I'd have to. Randy said something that pretty much what I thought as well. We were looking more at around the time that this song came out. We were in what I believe this angrier phase of like the grunge was kicking in, and then eventually Alanis Morissette came in and just blew the doors off. And later we see kind of a copycat of that with the song "Bitch" by Meredith Brooks, another girl who had a one song. Mm-hmm. It was a big song, and then you didn't hear anything else from her. Lisa Loeb, I will say, and I agree. Yeah, as far as the definition of a one-hit wonder, big time, because Bob had that right perfectly. I don't know any other fucking Lisa Loeb songs. I don't. I've tried to listen to the albums, listen to other albums, because she has released them. Some of them have been like a duo or a group type thing.
And you can't recognize any of them, right?
Yeah. And then when we see her performing, when she does something, we see her like in a commercial. We were watching some stuff the other night. We saw her perform on Howard Stern, and she did this song. Obviously, what other song is she going to do? So it always does come back to this song. And yes, she is probably one of the biggest definitions of a one-hit wonder, which is sad because she should have done a lot more. She has a great voice, and I'm sure she had. But yeah, like what Randy said, I mean, we went into this other maybe somebody who broke through that was Jewel. Jewel, I think, recorded "You Were Meant for Me" around the same time. But somehow, I guess she was able to slide through that because she did have more than one single and more than one hit come out in the 90s. So I don't know if, maybe it was that sweet personality, that sweet look. I mean, beautiful woman, a vampire. She doesn't age. Maybe it was that, but because I agree with the fact that she was probably the biggest definition of a one-hit wonder doesn't mean I think it was the greatest song or the greatest one-hit wonder of the 90s. She's definitely the definition and probably would come out on a lot of lists of one-hit wonders of like all time, but we're going to break it down into the 90s. And like we've mentioned, there's so many other songs that we're going to get into. So
I like it. I think you said it better than I did. I think like her song and her story encompasses what exactly it is to be a one-hit wonder, especially in the 90s. And yeah, she did have that kind of a sweet disposition about her. Maybe that maybe held her back because we're getting into like the Alanis Morissettes and Garbage and more angry, except for where have all the cowboys gone? I don't know how that song survived after that. But you had a lot of heartbreak songs. We didn't mention Gwen Stefani with "Don't Speak." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for her to have, I just think it's really odd and it's just something that's specific and it's really hard to beat that she had a song on the big movie. She reached number 1 on the Billboard charts before being signed. She gets a Grammy nomination for that specific song before being signed. And you would just think that after she signed to a record deal with all these new things in place, that she'd at least come up with one other song. Like you said it yourself. There's a lot of bands that you're like, oh, they're one-hit wonders, but they have like 3 or 4 other hit singles that were pretty decent. Mm-hmm. And her, you can't think of shit. I was actually looking it up. She does songs for kids.
Yeah,
she does albums where she does songs for kids now. She released like in 2017, 16, which is really awesome. It really, to be honest, I think it's really awesome that she does it. But that shows you what happened to her career. Like, I don't know if she just decided she didn't want it anymore, if she just decided to take a different path. What the hell it was, I don't know.
To your point, Bob, maybe you're right. Maybe she was like she saw the I want to be in control. Maybe it was like you mentioned, like she didn't want to be controlled, or she wanted to have more control over what she does. And maybe it wasn't, they wanted her to do some kind of like angsty shit, do something, give us something, Alanis. And it wasn't her. So, I mean, it's weird. It is very weird that she didn't have like, another. Nothing. It
just freaks me out. Like usually you can hear an artist and you hear a couple of their albums after their one hit, right? Their one hit wonders. And you'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that song. Oh yeah, I remember that song. It still played that. I remember that song. Like there's still at least a couple that you recognize or you remember, even though they're considered a one hit wonder, you still recognize a couple of their other songs. But with her, there's nothing, which is just, I found it to be odd. Really, really, really odd.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you think she was a victim of the zeitgeist? Because this song came out in 1994. So we're just coming off of grunge. I think this was August 94. We're coming off grunge. Kurt Cobain had just passed away. We're going into this post-grunge, punk uprising. Things are changing. She wrote this song, I think, in 1988. I'm not sure. I think she performed it with some old college buddies and just recorded it, 6 years later, like many songs. I mean, that's not a new story. But do you think that had this song been released, like maybe in the mid 80s, or maybe when we started accepting more folk songs, like in the turn of the century, like when we had all these TV shows that had folk singers sing their title tracks and those title tracks became hits, do you think she was just at the right place, but at the wrong time with this song?
I don't know, man, because Jewel's very folksy, and I think they had very similar tones to it. I don't know if that really holds too much water because of Jewel and her major success that she had in the 90s around the same time period between 94 through 97, 98.
What other song did Joel have other than that "You Were Meant for Me" song? I'm trying to like go through
Foolish Games.
Foolish Games. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh man, you got me already.
Yeah, don't cry.
No, I mean,
That song.
we had to. This is like, you know, I had to look it up. Had to, like, you know what? And I saw it. I was like, Joel had some more singles, and then she ended up later, like, you know, changing up a little bit of her style, but she made it through the 90s, you know. And coincidentally, if you saw that Woodstock documentary on what was it, Hulu?
Yeah, HBO Max.
HBO Max. Yeah. I think it was like her and Alanis, and I think one more other like female singer that were performing on the show. So that just shows
Sheryl
you, like,
Crow. Yeah,
Sheryl Crow. So it was Woodstock '99, and it was Alanis, Sheryl Crow, and
Sheryl Crow
Jewel.
again too. Sheryl Crow also had that kind of folksiness in some of her songs.
Well, you know, Sheryl Crow had that "All I Want to Do" song, which was kind of folksy, but then she shifted gears and started singing like more like rougher songs, like "If It Makes You Happy," and you know, these other. She did a few covers. She did a first cut is the deepest by Rod Stewart, which I thought was a pretty good cover. But I think she was able to shift gears, and like you said, Joseph, like Jewel was able to be a little more eclectic, but Lisa Loeb just didn't have that thunder, I guess,
or maybe she didn't want to do it, like Bob mentioned, or something like that.
Yeah,
whatever it is. Like, I'm not disagreeing to the fact of the one hit wonder thing. I think she's probably by far one of the most well known and recognized. My thing is just that I don't think it's the greatest 90s one hit wonder.
Well, you're wrong. You were wrong, Grandma. You were wrong.
I mean, you think Ethan Hawke, would get her on the Training Day soundtrack?
Yeah, I mean, you would think I would like maybe she wanted to be an actress after that.
She's done some acting. Yeah.
It just seems like all the stars were aligned for her to, you know, to be the superstar. And it just didn't happen, and I just don't understand like how the fuck that didn't, at least something, no other single didn't come from it.
I will say this, and this is probably more to your credit, Bob. That song finishes off Reality Bites with the closing credits, which is probably like the most 90s movie. I mean, I would argue Singles is, but Reality Bites is top 2 or 3. And that song closes the movie. So, I mean, it exemplifies a good 90s one hit wonder hit.
Let me ask you before we move on, because I know we're going to move on. You hear the song, you know the opening lyrics of this song. You know the opening lyrics of the song. I know the title, if it comes on the radio, and the title "Stay." The first one's "You Say."
You say
When it comes on the radio, I know this is one of Joseph's guilty pleasures, where he'll at least say "You Say," and then he'll lower it down and change the channels, make sure nobody's looking.
It would never come out on any of the radio stations that I listen to.
What about a burned CD?
I don't have those anymore.
So "Stay" by Lisa Loeb, defended by Bob.
Yes.
If you want to sing a few
not lullaby, fucking lullaby.
Okay, before we move on to Joe, what is wrong with that song? Because this is like the 4th or 5th time
is
I
that
brought
the
it up. Everything will be all right.
Oh yeah, that one. Is that the one where he sings?
This creepy guy's whispering into a fucking microphone.
So did Johnny Cash.
Johnny, did you just compare Rockabye to Johnny Cash? Jesus Christ! God Almighty!
What is your beef with that song?
You know what? I don't want you to stay anymore. I don't want you to stay. Go.
Well, let's move on from these foolish games. Joseph, what is your song and why?
All right, so I went with "Closing Time" by Semisonic. Everybody knows this song. Great song. Still to this day, a great song. So it was released in '98 off of their "Feeling Strangely Fine" album. It's actually their second album, the first being titled "The Great Divide." It did reach #1 on the U.S. Billboard Modern Rock track charts, and it was nominated for a Best Rock Song Grammy in '99, actually. So it shows you just how great this song was. It reappeared on the charts in 3 countries after being featured in the 2011 movie Friends with Benefits. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with I think it's Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis. Yes. Pretty funny movie, actually.
Where they
came out like 2010, right? 2012, something like
2011.
That?
That's where they.
I was right around there. Good.
He thinks it's a Third Eye Blind song, right?
Yeah, he keeps singing it. He thinks it's a Third Eye Blind song.
Yeah.
Guy can actually act. I'll give him that. So while it's literal. Oh, and I think it actually came out in The Office. I believe. It did come out in The Office. I just don't know what year it came out. And there's a bit with that. It's a great funny bit with Stanley. Anyway, while its literal meaning is about being asked to leave a bar, it is actually a much deeper song. And if you take a look at the lyrics and read about what Dan Wilson, the singer, was actually going through at the time of the writing and recording, his wife was pregnant with their first child before they started the recording schedule. His wife experienced complications, and his daughter was born 3 months premature. It takes on a new meaning when you hear the line, "I know who I want to take me home," which is about what Wilson was looking forward to, taking his daughter home eventually. He was able to take her home a year later, and actually she went home the day that the song was released. It was then that he realized, just how much she actually influenced the lyrics of the song. Again, if you really read into the lyrics after hearing that story, you see just how much they reference the situations. But I'm not oblivious to the obvious that at its heart, this is I'm not oblivious to the obvious, and that is that it is a bar song, and one of the most awesome bar songs to ever be played at the end of the night. To this day, the lyrics are great. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, or one last call for alcohol, so finish your whiskey and beer. I mean, we've heard this plenty of times being out and about. It's funny, and then after the song came out, it took on a whole new meaning. And sometimes if you were at a cool bar, they would play that song at the end of the night, and you just knew it was a good thing. It's perfect. Again, before I knew the backstory, I would hear it, and to be honest with you, like I mentioned, it has more meanings, I believe, and that's what's cool. After hearing what it was really about, I've always kind of listened to it and thought that it was, it could also be about this story about a guy and a girl maybe meeting for the first time, first date situation, and it going well, and in the sense that they connected and had this great chemistry and something like that. The line, "Gather up your jackets, move it to the exits. I hope you have found a friend." That always kind of stood out to me when I would think that. No, I'm not Randy. I'm not going to do that shit. That always stood out to me when I would hear that. The ever being you always fuck me up.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was pointing at Randy.
That always stood out to me when I would hear that. The every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. I always thought that was a great reference to maybe broken hearts, finding
Yes.
second chance out after a great night at the bar. After 23 years, it's still played in bars, I believe. I haven't been to a bar in a while, but I would hope that it is. We still hear it in songs to this day, and anytime it comes out on any 90s rock playlist, 90s alternative playlist, 90s one-hit wonder playlist, this song is always front and center, and it's always usually played. If it comes out on the radio, you're going to listen to it. It's not a guilty pleasure song. I mean, it's not one that you're going to roll down the windows and fucking sing to, but you're definitely going to turn the music up and turn the volume up and listen to it. I still think that it's always featured in any like pivotal moment of a rom-com, which is like what we saw in what was it, Just Friends or Friends with Benefits, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we'll ever get tired of it. I still have it on playlist, like I said, and if I can play it at the end of the night on the jukebox at a bar, when everything gets back to normal, hopefully, and we're able to just go out and enjoy the night, then I most definitely will. I'll always put that song on somewhere, and I hope that we can get to a situation where we can go out and just have a good time and hear that fucking song. But that's why I picked that song.
It's a good pick, man. I like Semisonic's Closing Time. It's definitely the song you want to play when you want to get all the drunks out of your bar, out of your house, like that one time during New Year's Eve, right, Randy?
Yeah. We should have played it.
It's a great song of the 90s, man. It is. But you know what? I think we're having a Phil Collins kind of moment here. It has that, that graduation. Everybody put that in everybody's yearbook. Every new beginning comes from some other beginn's end. It's been that way for the past 20 fucking years. Everybody writes that in their yearbooks or graduation shirts or whatever. It's a very good song. It's a very good song, but it wasn't their only hit. I know it's their biggest hit. And
Singing in My Sleep.
We have Singing in My Sleep, but also FNT was a great song off their very first album, The Great Divide. And it was actually in the movie 10 Things I Hate About You.
But you only knew about that song because of this song. Nobody knew that song. Yeah. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, nobody knew. I mean, that song was good in its own right. It came out in the movie. People liked the song. People downloaded that song. My wife even mentioned that she had that song downloaded as well as Semisonic. And it was a song that came out on the album previous to Semisonic's Closing Time. So people knew about the band already, and it wasn't because of Closing Time. A lot more people knew about them after Closing Time came out. I'll give you that. But they knew about Semisonic because of FNT that came out in 10 Things I Hate About You. And that's one of those things. It may not have been the biggest hit, but it was a pretty big hit. People knew what the song was. People knew the band because of that song. Like going back to my pick, nobody knew any of the other shit that Lisa Loeb came up with, unless you were like a major like Psycho fan. But for this one, I think that kind of takes some of the piss away. This FNT song, it kind of, Semisonic had a couple of hits. They didn't just have a Closing Time like the maybe everyone makes it out to be.
I don't know if FNT was such a big hit because I know the song. I don't really recollect it right now. I know Singing in My Sleep.
Did you watch 10 Things I Hate About You? You were probably out of high school when that movie came out.
No, I still watched it though.
Yeah.
It's good. Come on. I stopped watching movies after The Breakfast Club. After that shit, I was too fucking old to watch.
I was college.
No, we all still watch high school movies.
Jay, what are you doing watching high school movies? Getting your PhD.
Shots fired.
The last high school movie I saw was Grease. Now Bob threw me off track. Okay.
Good.
The thing Bob alluded to earlier about throwing people out and having parties. There was Bob used to throw a New Year's party at his house every New Year's, and there was a group of guys, didn't know who they were, cool guys, and I got really drunk and I said, all you weirdos with the glasses and the strange facial hair, or I don't know what I said, something very, very demeaning, and I kicked everybody out. I was very drunk. So, we should have had Closing Time playing when I was shouting at people. That's not the most embarrassing thing I did during that time, but it's probably top 5. Very bad. I'm sure we've heard this song countless of times at bars when bars are closing. Sweaty, drunk, crowded bars looking for our friends, and brutish bouncers are herding us out the exits. The best times of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And
yes, exactly.
And Joseph, I'm glad you brought up the deep meaning sort of context of the song about fatherhood and him, expecting his daughter to be born. I had that in my notes too. And I didn't know about that until I researched the song as well. 1998 was sort of a shift year. You saw in politics, Bill Clinton doing Bill Clinton things, movies. We had Saving Private Ryan getting screwed out of the Oscar because Shakespeare in Love won, which was just horrible, and music. And I think that coincides with the internet becoming incredibly present that year. I think the core of this song is that chorus. And I think everybody loves listening to that song because of the chorus. It's fun. It's very sing-songy. It's incredibly maudlin, and as much as it tries to put a stranglehold on modern rock, I think what it fails to do is capture a feel. This song is deeper than what it seems to be, but when you're playing this song as a bar is closing at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., wherever you live, everything is face value. Nobody wants to think about metaphors and ambiguity. Everybody's just thinking, I got to get the fuck out of here. I got to get something to eat. I got to go back home. I'm sure if you're a bouncer at the bar in the late 90s, you fucking hate this song because they played it all the time. The video was cool, but had they had cell phones back then, the video would have been 5 seconds long. But cool video nonetheless. A lot of people who came of age with this song are getting married and having kids. So it's pretty surreal how sort of family friendly this song could be. You could sing it with your kids. You could sing it in the car and play along, maybe do the hand wave. The song will never die. So I'll give you credit for that. And I want to leave off or end with the Stanley Hudson quote. I've never heard that song before. And once I heard it, I did not care for it. But this song means it's time to go home. Now it's my favorite song. Stanley Hudson from The Office. I forgot what episode they played it on, but I remember that quote.
It was later on because I think Andy was the manager at the time. But to Bob's point, if I can argue that, I don't think I think your argument that they had more than one hit, I think they have hits because of this song. And yes, that song did come out. I know that song from the movie. I had no fucking idea that was Semisonic. And I think people got to know them more and check out that first album. And maybe it got used in the movie because everybody heard Semisonic and Closing Time, and that, you know, because I went through the album feeling strangely fine. To be honest, I don't really like any of the other songs. None of them really stood out, and I ended up checking out the first album as well, and that's where I heard FNT is the name of the song.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this is that song from Can't Hardly Wait. So
you recognized it.
I recognized it only because of the movie, but I had no fucking idea it was Semisonic. So
well, you need to open your mind, sir, and listen to different music.
I think that the only reason maybe they got maybe some more recognition, or you can call them more hits, is maybe because because of this one song, and people actually maybe went and looked back at their catalog and learned that maybe they had done some more. But really, I would only say those two songs. Like, I don't know any other songs.
I will agree.
But I will agree with your. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Joseph.
That it ended up being a popular song because 10 Hardly Wait. 10 Hardly Wait.
10 Hardly Wait.
10 Hardly Wait. Son of a bitch.
That's like one of those spoof films.
We're gonna make it.
Don't you know he's white?
But 10 Things I Hate About You, I think because it was such a popular song. I mean, popular movie. And it was a great movie. Heath Ledger was awesome. The late Heath Ledger, rest in peace. But I think because of that movie, people got to hear that song, and it kind of opened things up a little bit. I'll just kind of say that.
I will say FNT and Singing in My Sleep. I don't think they were hits, though. Can we categorize those songs as hits? I mean, Closing Time was a major hit.
That's a major hit, but it was still a hit. I mean, like, if you can recognize it and you're like, oh, I know this song. This thing is like, I think that it means it got played enough to where it was a hit. It doesn't have to be a major hit. It is, like, no other song is going to compare to Closing Time. That's going to be their biggest hit, always biggest hit. But like I said, Lisa Loeb, you can't even name another fucking song she did. At least for these, we mentioned two other songs that were sort of popular from this band. So that kind of, I think, pulls away at the one hit wonder title or label.
Well, they didn't have anything else after that, though. That's the thing. And that's why I only think that was their one hit.
But they had it before, so
but it depends on who you ask. Because I don't think that they were. I didn't know who the fuck they were before until before this before Closing Time. So
it's because you really didn't like 10 Things I Hate About You.
I tell you, it was no. I didn't like 10 Hardly Wait.
10 Hardly Wait.
Apparently, I saw the wrong movie, so that's why.
I think
on Betamax.
I think the difference is that I think a lot of people consider this song a novelty song, where it's the reason it doesn't die, not because it's a great song. Don't get me wrong. And of course, we've misconstrued it all this time because it's a deeper song than what we think. And maybe that's why the song is so good, because it's got meaningful lyrics about a man whose wife is expecting. But this song will never die, because as long as there's bars, as long as there's college kids, this song is going to live on forever. Where, I mean, will Stay live on forever? Maybe it will. It's maybe not as, but I mean, it's got a rejuvenation because of the Geico commercial. But Closing Time, I mean, is it going to keep going on and on? Because it's just such a fun novelty song.
You know what song won't? Lullaby.
We're going to bring it back. All right. So let's go to my pick. It's not Lullaby, by the way. So this is a funny little story. I picked Marcy Playground, Sex and Candy. When I Googled the song, when I Googled information on Marcy Playground, I wrote Marcy's Playground because we're from the Valley and we tend to put S's at the end of everything. Barnes and Noble, Peter Pipers, the Oklahoma City Thunders. We tend to do that. So I put Marcy's Playground on my Google search without realizing, like, shit, it's Marcy Playground. So
how many S's are there in the word chicken?
I'm already off to a bad start. So the song was written in an hour by lead singer John Wozniak. While the title was to the point, the lyrics were mysterious non sequiturs, sort of like, has anyone outside of Marcy Playground made a less enthusiastic song about sex and made it a hit? I don't think so. It takes a special talent to make this topic sound like a chore. There were people who have likened the song or likened the sound of Marcy Playground to Nirvana. I want to talk a little bit about that once I'm done with my points. Another Marcy Playground song, St. Joe on the School Bus, sounds more like Nirvana than this, but people have compared this song to Nirvana. We could talk about that in a bit. But re-listening to Sex and Candy, I can see that this is kind of in Kurt Cobain's wheelhouse of lyrical output. It wouldn't be called Sex and Candy, though. Maybe it would be called like Heroin and Laxatives. I don't know. I think this song represents an important bridge between grunge and the post-grunge era. It's like the handing off a baton. Sonically, it would fit well enough to be a hit in the early or mid-90s. The arrangement and delivery of the song is cloying. It fits the late 90s narrative, but it's so abstract, it's radio friendly. And that's what I love about it. It couldn't help but become a crossover. The title helps. It conceals the song. It's not pretending to be anything it's not. And it takes some time to really try to figure out these lyrics. So I think this song, you have to re-listen to it and then you'll discover something new. And some of the lyrics are a little absurd, but that's what makes it fun. The hook and the mood gives this song that meaning. It's coffee house. Yes. Is it a bar song? Yes. Is it a party song? Yes. It just checks off every box and it just draws you to a mesmerizing and scintillating hit because I think everybody thought too deeply about the mood and interpretation and they saw past the simplicity of what was a simple down-tempo, fun song to listen to. The song has its own life, so much that it was sold. And this guy made a huge business mistake. The lead singer, John Walsey, he sold the song, never made another hit. And I think he's just living off the money he sold the song for. But it's a quintessential 90s song. Some people might call it a fluke. I don't think they expect it to be one-hit wonders. I don't think they expect it to be any hit wonders. I think that's what makes this a brilliant one-hit wonder. I think they wrote this song, and the background of the song is that the lead singer wrote it in the late 80s after he just finished having sex with somebody in a dorm room. The roommate of the girl walks in, says it smells like sex and candy in here. That lyric, or I should say that statement just stuck in his mind. He wrote a song about that. I think it sets the tone of what 90s era music is. It's fun. It's immature sometimes. It's also very slow. It could be very fun. It could be very different. And I think they just stumbled on a hit. I don't think they expected to have a hit. I don't think this band expected to be big. And that's why I think it makes it the best one hit wonder, because we all love this song. We all listen to it. It's fun and it's engaging. What do y'all think?
You're right. I do really like this song. And this is it's funny. You mentioned some things that I agree with. This one is tough for me because I know it's going to come out on these lists. It's going to come out as a one-hit wonder because they're going to say that, nothing ever really charted or nothing, whatnot. They did have follow-up albums to this one particular album. They are considered a one-hit wonder, but I very much disagree with this. This album, the first album, is highly underrated. I don't know if you've ever listened to this album front to the back, but I believe you can agree with this, Randy. Poppies, the first song isn't that great of an opener, but from there we go to Sex and Candy, which is a great song. I love this dark pop melancholy tone of the song. I love the lyrics. They're out there, like you mentioned. They're kind of confusing, a bit dark. It's really awesome. And I think that's what at the heart of the song, it's pop, and it's going to come out on all these pop rock radio stations. I think there's Sirius has a pop rock one. It comes out on there all the time. Mm-hmm. I've rarely ever heard it come out on Lithium. I don't think I've ever heard it come out on Lithium. Even the grunge kids, I guess kids like me, maybe I'm a hard rock kid. This. I've been that way since I was younger. I dig this song. I think it's really cool, and I think it's because of the weird tones, like I mentioned, the questionable lyrics. But like I said, the album had other good songs, specifically, like you mentioned, St. Joe on a School Bus. That song is fucking awesome.
I think it's their best song. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a video for that song. I actually think it was their second single, and Sex and Candy was considered the third one. I don't know how in the era of the 90s grunge that these songs came out in, St. Joe on a School Bus didn't do better, because it's a great fucking song. It's highly underrated. We've had discussions about this before. A Cloak of Elven Cane's another great song off the album. It's a little shout out to all the D&D kids. Sherry Fraser's another great song. I know you probably don't know. I'm just listing the names of the songs for reference.
Sherry Fraser has a badass little Foo Fighters type of vibe to it.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. Boom. Thank you, Bob. Opium. One More Suicide's another good one. And there's a song towards the end of the album called The Shadow of Seattle. I guess, they knew, they were coming out, and maybe they knew that they were compared to, like you mentioned, this grunge sound at its heart. When I listened to that song, The Shadow of Seattle, I think it's like a really mellow, I hear like the mellow grungeness of it, and it's a really good song. These are, again, that I mentioned, great songs, and this album is highly underrated. The second album didn't get as much success. I myself will admit that it wasn't very good. I only really liked It's Saturday, Pigeon Farm, and the song called Never probably being my favorite. I don't think they were supposed to be this pop rock band, but due to the success of Sex and Candy, they got lumped into that. And when you listen to who they actually were people didn't like it. And a lot of the music, because of the dark tones, and if you listen to some of those songs that I mentioned, it's probably what kept them from succeeding. Great song again. I love it. It's just really kind of hard for me to lump this into a one-hit wonder because I feel so strongly about that album. I think it's a great album, and I think a lot of those songs are highly underrated.
Completely agree too. Sex and Candy was one of my favorite songs of the 90s. Big time hit, big time single for them. But like Joseph said, it wasn't their only hit on the album. As a matter of fact, going back to St. Joe on the school bus, that single came out before Marcy's play. I mean, before Sex and Candy, and it was
Marcy's.
Yeah, I know I said Marcy's.
We're from the Valley. We're gonna do that.
St. Joe on the school bus was number 8 on the U.S. Billboard Rock chart. So
but not in the mainstream, not in the Billboard pop chart.
It was the U.S. Billboard Modern Rock charts. This is the same chart that Joseph said for Semisonic. So it's the U.S. Billboard number 8 on the rock chart. So it was a hit. It was a big time hit, and maybe it was because it kind of sounded like the Meat Puppets, and the song kind of has like a Nirvana's "Come As You Are" vibe to it, or maybe rip off, some would say. But it's a song that came out, so they were already popular. That they had a music video that was played a lot from MTV. The single was out on the radio. Like I said, it did top the charts. It may not have been on the Hot 100, but it was on the rock chart, reaching number 8. So can we really say that Sex and Candy was a one-hit wonder, considering that St. Joe on the School Bus was quite popular as well? Like I said, top 10 in that chart. That's pretty fucking good.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure. I always thought Sex and Candy, the video, came out before, because I distinctly remember St. Joe's on the School Bus, the video coming afterwards, and like a while afterwards, because I remember the video. It was a boy who cried wolf, and at the end he gets swallowed by a wolf or whatever. But I don't remember that song as a precursor to Sex and Candy, because I don't want to say
it's a second single off that album.
I know it's the second single for sure. It
came out before Sex and Candy.
I don't want to give you say 100% the video came out before,
but the song definitely did.
Yes, it did.
And the song, and you know, and wherever the video fell, the song still got to number 8 on that chart, which is pretty fucking impressive.
I love the song, like I mentioned. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I love the song too. I think it's their best song. I think it's the best song on the album. But I also didn't remember that song being such a big hit, because I remember saying, wow, these guys are going to build some steam. They had Sex and Candy, now they have the St. Joe song, and they're gonna move up, and they sounded a lot like Nirvana, or Nirvana Light, whatever you want to categorize it. But I don't remember that song being as popular. I remember thinking, like, why isn't this song popular? Because it's fucking good.
I think it was. You just didn't like it back then, especially. It's not like we had the internet to see, like, holy shit, this was number 8 on the rock pop charts. You know what I mean? So it's everybody kind of has certain songs where they're like, I don't know why this song isn't popular. It's so good, which probably hundreds of thousands of people probably thought exactly the same way you did. We just didn't have a platform like the internet or Twitter, so we can say that over and over again. But it's an extremely popular song. Like I said, I like it better than you said. You like it better than Sex and Candy. I agree with that statement 100%. It's a really cool song, really different lyrics, shit like that. So it was a good song, man. So I don't know. Again, and I know I sound like a broken record, so I'm repeating it. Just like Semisonic had F&T, Marcy Playground had Sex and Candy, and they also had this song, St. Joe's on the School Bus. So it's really hard to call them a one-hit wonder when you're trying to go, like, if we're going to go by definition, they had one badass song and that was it, and then they disappeared. But it's really hard to say that, at least for me.
There are so many charts. I mean, they had an alternative rock chart. They have a heavy metal chart. And
so what chart do you think worked? Just the
I would say like Hot 100 Billboard. I don't think that's charted.
Well, speaking of that one, Lisa Loeb's "Stay" was the only one that hit number 1 out of our 3 picks from that Billboard.
But it wasn't the best song.
No, in your eyes, everybody else in America disagrees, sir. I know it wasn't Lullaby.
Okay, Bob, you make a good point. That song was number 1. I think Semisonic 11. I think hit. I think Sex and Candy hit number 8. But I will say, when we're talking about how a song endures and how it's still played, I think these other 2 songs are more popular now, or at least they've swam by this long. And "Stay" just really hadn't had that. I mean,
but we're talking specifically in 90s. You know what I mean? Semisonic came out in what, 98? When did Marcy's Playground? When did Sex and Candy come out in?
96, 95?
95.
Yeah,
like
96.
Lisa Loeb's song was extremely popular during that time period, and I don't think anybody really forgot about her. Like I said, I just don't know. I think she I don't know what the fuck happened to her career, but that song was hugely popular in the 90s. Hugely.
The thing is, it's going to come down to like, okay, yes, we're giving our opinions and how we feel. And like I mentioned, it's hard for me to consider Sex and Candy by Marcy Playground a one-hit wonder because I loved that fucking album. And that's my opinion. But unfortunately, it's going to come out on all these lists. And whether we want to like take that into account, like a VH1 list, an MTV list, or a Rolling Stone list, something like that, I'd say more Rolling Stone. Like if we can find a Rolling Stone list and they come out on these lists,
well, the Billboard list was like the legit one for the longest time.
Okay, MTV's lost its credibility, so I won't say that. VH1 as well, they're just not the same. But back when they were doing that on these lists, if these 3 songs come out on one hit wonder list, then we gotta abide by that. Regardless of my feelings, I like I said, I love this album. I think it's great. I love St. Joe on a School Bus, and it's hard for me to put Sex and Candy in a one-hit wonder category. It is what it is, and I have to give my feelings on how I feel about that. I am totally on board with you, Bob, 100%, that Lisa Loeb is probably one of the greatest one-hit wonders of all time, spanning all decades, because of the fact you only can remember one song from her. But like Crandy said, we're talking about the 90s, and a lot of the songs that we listed off in our honorable mentions, I mean, we could probably do the same thing as far as making some great arguments for them.
You just
only having one song.
Yeah, I know, but you just couldn't do it for Semisonic and Marcy Playground because they had more than one hit.
But I think what makes a quintessential one hit wonder, and I'm jumping a little ahead because I had a question about this to wrap things up. But when you look at Marcy Playground and you look at Semisonic, I tried my best not to say Marcy's. When you look at those bands, they had great songs. They did. Semisonic had 2 or 3 other good songs. Marcy Playground had 2 or 3 other songs. That's why I think they amount to bigger one-hit wonders, because why weren't these other songs hits? If this band is so good, how come they only had this one thing that charted, this one thing that's popular, this one thing that's known for? Like, we're listening some deep cuts with some of these other bands. Like, not everybody knows, St. Joe's on the Bus. People are probably going to Google it right now. They definitely do. You think so? I don't think a lot of people know that song. I think
like I said, it was number 8 on that rock chart. I think it had a full head of steam there for a while, and it probably led to more people listening to, not more people, but people knew the band because of that song before Sex and Candy became the single. Like, people already knew of the band. It's not like Sex and Candy came out and they're like, who the hell is Marcy Playground? Never heard of these guys before in my life. I don't think it was the case.
I don't know. Joseph.
You were wrong.
I'm not wrong.
No, I thought you were going to tell me. I thought you were going to say, I think you're wrong. I don't like your attitude.
I'm going to mute you. My internet connection is unstable. I think I think that's the thing. I think with Lisa Loeb, she had such a wonderful one hit. And yes, she is known by that one hit. I know she had a video that was a follow-up. I can't name that song. I know it was in black and white, and she's doing some like 1950s vibe to it. I can't name that song. And therefore, if you're going by those credentials, yes, Lisa Loeb had the biggest one hit, but I think one hit is also should encompass a band who is so popular and so big and had all these other great songs, but yet the public only accepted one hit. And to me, that's what I think what defines a one hit wonder.
By your logic, Bob, How Bizarre is probably the biggest. Is 10 times better than Stay. Because all we know is How Bizarre, and if you know any other song by that band, then please tell me.
By the rights.
If you know, by the rights.
If How Bizarre hit number 1 on the Hot Billboard 100, then I'll retract my statement.
I'm willing to bet that song did not fucking hit number 1.
How Bizarre, right? It was a good song.
Yeah. Randy said he hates that song, but he likes Lullaby.
I wasn't a fan of How Bizarre. Guys, let me ask you a few questions to wrap this up. Which 90s one-hit wonders are you shocked only had one hit? Who do you think could have had a better career or should have had a better career?
Go ahead, Joseph. I'm looking up to see where it charted.
Well, I don't know, man. I'd have to. I'll go with Torn by Natalie. Is it Natalie Imbruglia?
Yeah, you think she should have had a bigger career?
I thought she would have. It was such a huge song. It was a great video. I mean, it was simple, and that's saying something because here I am, the rock guy. But yeah, I mean, that's somebody who you figured would have had a bigger career.
She definitely went into acting. She had a lot of acting gigs. I think it just her career went in that direction instead of music. I was going to mention Space Hog. I think Space Hog, they were a badass little band. I'm surprised they didn't do much more.
I thought the Toadies, I thought when Possum Kingdom came, when it was released, I should say, I thought it struck a chord. Like I was like, this is the right song at the right time. And I've heard a few of their other cuts and they're not bad. They're a good band and they're a good live band. And I'm just shocked that they didn't have more hits or they only had that one hit.
I'm sorry. If not that I don't agree with Torn, but one of my honorable mentions and one that we've all thought the same too. Duncan Sheik, you figure that guy, it was a great song. Barely Breathing was, you think he would have been like another huge like 90s, was he pop rock? Would you call him that?
Yeah. Pop rock alternative, like I would say pop rock.
I think he was in a band with Lisa Loeb, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're in the same college band. Yeah.
But he had a great voice. I remember going to Pizza Hut when Pizza Hut was cool back then, because Pizza Hut kind of sucks now. But remember we used to go to Pizza Hut and they had the jukebox.
There are sponsors this week, Joseph.
You even had Pizza Hut or Pizza Hut.
They used to have a kick-ass jukebox and you can go and put what was it, like 50 cents would get you a song, which was really cool back then. And I would put on Barely Breathing all the time because I thought it was good. Usually, they didn't have Nirvana on the jukebox, so I gotta find something else.
Usually, after 7 slices of stuffed crust, I'm barely breathing. So yeah, I agree.
Breathing is hard.
Which band that had longevity did you think would only be a one-hit wonder? Was there anybody in the 90s where you're like, okay, they had a fluke hit, no way they're gonna carry on over, but shockingly they've had a pretty good career?
The Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, Bare Naked Lady.
Those are all good bands, by the way.
Jesus Christ. Man. Now you're gonna tell me that guy from Mighty Mighty Boss, that cat can dance. That cat can dance. Yeah, it's between him and Mick Jagger at this point. I'm not.
If we want to talk, if we want to use that, I'd say, when did Fly come out by Sugar Ray? Even though that wasn't their first, wasn't their first off. That wasn't off of their first album.
They were a metal band, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. They were a metal band, and that's the only song on that album, their second album, Floored, I believe, that sounds like that. That was like, hey, it got them recognition. It was
commercial success.
It gave him commercial success. I'm sure people bought that album thinking the whole album's going to be like this Fly song, and
they got Green Machine and
so maybe I guess that would be my answer, because that song took them to new heights. It was kind of like and actually their second album, everybody thought like, oh, is this just one hit wonder song? Their second album's called 1459, I believe, because everybody was like, oh, they're writing their 15 minutes of fame. And they ended up having more songs after, because they completely changed their style and went, skeered into the, what is that saying? Skeered into the, I don't know.
Steer into the skid.
Steer into the skid, excuse me. Fucking up everywhere here. They steered into the skid and they had a successful career before they went yacht rock. I know.
So. And now Mark McGrath is like the head dude at like ETV, or what is it like?
He still has the highlights. Yeah.
No, I'm saying, so I guess because that's what got him very popular and turned him into this huge like overnight success. And maybe you thought that they were just gonna have that one song, but no, they kept on going.
I will say Smash Mouth. I'm shocked. After Walking on the Sun, I did not think they were gonna hit it big. And of course what
was the second one? It was like All That Glitters Is Gold, wasn't the name of that one?
All Star, but they also had Can't Get Enough of You, Baby. They had the Shrek. They did a lot of covers. I'm a believer, and they had a pretty good run.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring up a one-hit wonder that we haven't thought of in a long time that I thought was good. How about the Flies? Got You Where I Want You.
Yeah, that was an awesome song, man.
Yeah,
that's a great song. Probably one of the easiest one I learned to play on the guitar back in the day. It's a badass song. I was one of my favorites back when I was in. When did that come out in?
I think I want to say
97, 98,
99 maybe. 98, I think.
Yeah, dude, it was a great song, man. And those guys, another group that probably put out a couple more albums, but didn't really have any, success after that. I'd have to look that up. Shit, I have to check those guys out.
I've never heard another song from them. I can't name another song. I don't know if you guys brought their album or anything, but I thought that song was great. I thought they sounded, at first I thought they were Soundgarden when I first heard the song. He sounded a little like Chris Cornell, but I mean, they never went anywhere.
Yeah,
man. But any last words on one hit wonders of the 90s?
I think it was like you mentioned in the beginning. It had the most They may not all have been the best in our eyes, but it clearly had the most. And maybe I think that's why they talk about this generation of music being some of the best, even though it was possibly some of the worst, even though we love our 70s rock and our 70s music and even our 80s stuff. We can't deny that there was a bunch here.
There's a shitload of one-hit wonders from the 70s, a lot of obscure bands that had some great songs and stuff like that. The 90s did bring a lot. And like I said, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was about it. If you were kind of pissed off and, angsty, you had a single, fuck, that would play the shit out of it, but they only gave you that 15 minutes of fame, like you were saying, that one song to get out there. But it was pretty difficult to choose. It was really difficult to choose. Like I said, there was a lot to choose from. There was a lot to go through. There was a lot of songs we could have picked easily. Like you just mentioned, Got You Where I Want You and Sir Mix-a-Lot and stuff like that. It was really difficult, but I'm glad we revisited this topic, because I think having it so broad when we first did it, we had a song from the 80s, one from the 90s, one from the 2000s, and it was kind of cool. But narrowing it down by decade made it a little more difficult, man. There's some tough choices that we had to make today.
Let me real quick, let me say something. I know, just because I just want to put this out there because it was really weird. Me and Bob freaked out about this. We were listening to One Hit Wonders playlist and a song called What I Am by Edie Brickell.
Yeah, is it an 80s song though?
Yes,
it's an 80s song.
Yeah. This is what's weird. Me and him were talking.
It came out in 86.
It came out in 86, dude. If that song had come out in 93, she would have been a fucking superstar. Because that song has 90s written all over, from the music video to the way she dressed, to the way she sounded, the way she sang. That fucking song. Yeah. I don't know
the entire look.
Yeah, I don't know how it came out in 86.
I think she was. I don't know if she was married to, but I know she dated George Harrison for a while. But yeah, that was a good song back day.
It's a good song. We were like, this song came out in the 80s. We were like,
yeah, we saw the video and I was like, holy shit, this could be a good pick. And then when we looked at the date, 86, I couldn't believe it, man, because that I feel like a lot of artists, female artists in the 90s, could have stolen that look and that sound, because she was just a couple of years before her time. I think 5-6 years later, if she had come out with that song, I think she would have been it would have been a huge hit.
Yeah, Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians. I remember that song. Please stop there. Don't say that. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor was the next video you saw that could have been a big 90s hit. But that's our show, everyone. Listeners, we'd like to hear from you. What is your best or what is your favorite 90s one-hit wonder? Who did we not mention? Most importantly, let us know what you think about the show. You may reach us at formidableopponents@gmail.com. And follow us on Twitter at @FOpponents and on Instagram at formidable_opponents. We'd love to hear some topic suggestions. If you have anything in mind, please let us know. We're taking a couple of weeks off. We'll be back in 2 weeks. School starting up. And speaking of school, we're going back to school as well. And in 2 weeks, our next episode is Best Saved by the Bell episode. We're still going to be active on our social media, so you can still hit us up. You can still suggest shows. We're still going to be out there. So for Bob and Joseph, this is Randall, and y'all have a good night.
Lullaby.